Chapter 7. The next morning, Olga was able to accompany them to church services, and afterwards she spoke to the minister, praising his sermon and introducing Danny and Peg. Danny was relieved the minister hadn't seemed to notice that he wasn't paying attention. It hadn't been the minister's fault. Every time when they'd sat down in the pew, Danny had noticed Olga's hands trembling. The skin on them was so transparent he could see the faint blue lines underneath. Olga's hands had reminded Danny of Da's, and he'd frantically said his own prayers that Olga wouldn't be as ill as Da had been, and that she'd soon be well again. Danny was introduced to so many people he couldn't begin to remember their names. Mrs. Pratka gave him another smothering hug. He could never forget Mrs. Pratka. He was surprised when Mrs. Pratka arrived at the Swensons only a few minutes after they returned home. She took off her coat, looked around for a place to put her hat, and finally stuck it on top of the ball of twine, which had grown a little larger after their last visit to town. As Mrs. Pratka tied a large white apron around her ample middle, she said, "I know that your girl Gessie is off today, and I know you're feeling poorly, Olga, so you get yourself off to bed, get a good rest, and I'll cook up a meal that'll put some meat on your bones." Without pausing for breath, she gave Danny, "Get out that church-going clothes and lend me a hand with the washing and the peeling of the vegetables." Danny hurried to obey, and while he was scrubbing the dark soil from a bunch of carrots, Mrs. Pratka said, "Worrying doesn't do any good, Danny." He looked up startled and said, "Your forehead's full of wrinkles. That don't help, Olga. Just show her a happy smile. That's the kind of help she needs." "I want her to be better soon," Danny said. "We all want her to," Mrs. Pratka said. She looked so sympathetic, Danny blurted out, "What if?" and then couldn't finish the sentence. Mrs. Pratka sighed and put down the pot she was holding. "Danny, you're old enough to understand that life can be pretty hard at times, but it has a lot of good moments too. You just have to keep your mind on the good parts, struggle through the bad ones. You traveled a rough road yourself, so you know what I'm talking about. Now let's get some spunk, put a smile on your face." She glanced at the carrot Danny was holding and scrape all the way to the tops of those carrots. "When you're done, cut them into chunks, not slices. Chunks, you understand?" Danny understood. He understood all of it, but he didn't want his life to have any bad times. He only wanted good. He wished he could talk to Mike about the way he felt, or Ma. He wished he could hear what Ma had to say. The days passed quickly and the air grew cold. Each Wednesday evening, Alfred rode to St. Joe to attend the abolitionist meeting. "I'd like to go too," Danny told him. "When Ralph Waldo Emerson comes to speak, I'll let you go with me," Alfred promised. "I understand the man's a fine orator." "When will he come?" Danny asked. "Well, the date hasn't been set," Alfred said. "You'll have to be patient." But it was hard for Danny to be patient. Mike wrote an excited, happy letter from his new home of Captain Taylor at Fort Leavenworth, and Frances wrote about how happy she and Petey were with the family. "I can be a girl again," she wrote. Danny smiled as he recalled when he'd last seen Frances, her hair cropped raggedy short, wearing a boy's trousers, all to keep her promise to Ma to try to stay with Petey. Ma wrote her new job as a housemaid and her tidy little attic room in a fine house. Danny read the letters over and over until the papers split in the folds, and he wouldn't allow himself to picture Ma's room and the house and the people in it, all of which Ma described so well. He wouldn't let himself think about the fort and the soldiers and travelers who came and went, and he closed his mind to the Kansas farm that Frances wrote about. He had to keep believing his family would someday be together again. All anyone could talk about at school was the upcoming presidential election, even though every day Miss Clark reminded them to study harder to prepare for the spelling bee. Danny wondered if Miss Clark thought the spelling bee was more important than the election. As the important Saturday evening drew close, they had to polish their desks until the wood gleamed. The day before the spelling bee, they carried the benches Mr. Otis Palmer had brought out of his wagon, so there'd be places for everyone to sit. Miss Clark scrubbed the floor, put a bowl of autumn leaves on her desk, and cautioned all the students to be sure to be on time with their families the next evening. Olga packed a large basket of food and tied a festive red ribbon to the handle. The color was mirrored in her cheeks, and her eyes sparkled with excitement. "I used to be very good at spelling bees," she said. "I still remember the fun. Danny, you're going to do so well. We're so proud of you." It wasn't until they arrived at the schoolroom that Danny saw the crowd that had come that he began to get nervous. Everyone dove into the box suppers first, and most of the families shared extra cake or fruit with one another. Danny wished they could have eaten after the spelling bee was over and not before. He found it impossible to choke down even a bite. Olga winked and whispered out, "I've got some dinner set aside for you to enjoy later. There's a big piece of sponge cake tucked into this napkin." Danny gulped. "I wanted to win the spelling bee, but now I think I'm going to lose." That's all the contestants are thinking at this moment, isn't it? Surprised, Danny looked around the room. Wilmer was fidgeting, drumming his heels against the floor, and one of the sisters poked him, insisting he stop. Charlie, Tom, Bessie, none of the participants in the spelling bee looked particularly happy. Well, then, he wasn't alone. The tight knot in his chest released a little. In a short time, the napkins were folded over the baskets, which were then slipped under the benches. Ever since he had made and donated the benches years ago, Otis Palmer had been the one who called out the spelling words. With an air of importance, he sat at Miss Clark's desk and opened the spelling book. The 15 participants immediately hurried to their places in the line across the front of the room. Wilmer stepped on Danny's right foot, and Danny elbowed Wilmer in the ribs. "I'm gonna beat you," Wilmer whispered, and Danny just grinned because he knew that would irritate Wilmer more than anything else. The audience became quiet, and the whimpering baby was gently hushed. Mr. Palmer fixed Bessie, who stood at the end of the row, with a gaze so steady she flinched. In rolling tones, he called out the first word, repeating it with the same deliberation. Amicably. Amicably. Amicably, Benny stammered. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath and recited, A. Wrong. Before Bessie could open her eyes, Mr. Palmer said, Next. Spell amicably. Bessie stumbled to a seat against the wall, her face flushed with embarrassment. The very first word, and she'd missed it. Danny felt so sorry for Bessie. It was all he could do to keep from groaning aloud. What if he missed the word, too? It dawned on him that Charlie, Bessie's partner, had spelled the word correctly, and Mr. Palmer had shot out another word to Tom in the next line. Neighbor, Mr. Palmer was saying. Denny's knees wobbled. Thank goodness someone else was getting that word. Tom spelled it correctly, and Mr. Palmer went on to Alice May, who left out the E out of pursued and was dropped from the competition. Laura Lee spelled pursued correctly, and suddenly it was Danny's turn. Way, Mr. Palmer said. Danny's mouth fell open. No, not that word. He couldn't go down there on the first word, and for the life of him, he couldn't remember how to spell it. The I and the E were the same as neighbor. What had Tom said? Way, Mr. Palmer repeated. His voice had reminded Danny of church bells tolling at the funeral. Dan knew he had to say something before time ran out. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Way, he said. W-E-I-G-H. He had actually taken a step out of line before he realized Mr. Palmer had gone on to Callie June with the word partisan, so he must have spelled the word correctly. With a long sigh, he leaned against the wall. The worst was over. As each round passed, the words became harder. Some of the contestants had to drop out. Soon they were down to 10 and then 8. Danny was still in. So was Wilmer. Mr. Palmer looked at Laura Lee. Fernacious, he said. Huh? Danny muttered under his breath. He didn't remember ever seeing that word. Apparently Laura Lee didn't either, because she got completely tangled in the vowels. Wrong, Mr. Palmer boomed, and Laura Lee flounced to her seat. His gaze warned to Danny's skull. Farinaceous, he said. Farinaceous, Danny repeated. F-A-I-R. Wrong, Mr. Palmer said. Head down, Danny walked to the bench where the Swensons sat. Olga squeezed over and made a place for him. That was a dreadful word, she whispered. I never would have got that one right. Danny glanced at her with surprise to see she was smiling. We're so proud of you, she said. Look how well you did. There aren't many left in the competition. Danny looked at the front of the room, where only the older students, Tom, Charlie, Annie, and Elizabeth, remained standing. Where's Wilmer? He whispered. Alfred leaned in to whisper in return. He went down the same word you did. So, Wilmer had missed it too. A tight place in Danny's stomach immediately disappeared, and he realized how hungry he was. He could hardly wait till the spelling bee was over so he could eat. But the last 4 contestants were top-notch spellers, and the match continued. Finally, Tom and Annie went down on pernicious. Soon after, Charlie missed vertiginous. Elizabeth, with a gleam of triumph in her eyes, spelled the word correctly. She was declared the winner, and a wide blue ribbon was pinned to her shirtwaist. I'm satisfied, a loud voice could be heard over the room. Don't even mind my own not winning, long as a boy from an abolitionist family didn't take the match. There was silence for a few seconds as everyone turned to stare at the man who'd spoken, Wilmer's father. Miss Clark made a little shooing motions as though she were trying to clear the room and called out, Thank you for coming, everyone. Hope you'll all be at our Christmas pageant, December 22nd. Don't forget. Thank you, thank you. One of the fathers, a muscular, red-faced man who spoke with a thick German accent, had stepped up to Wilmer's father. You're the hothead with a troublemaker, Jobs, the man said. What are you trying to do? Start a war right here and now? I'm got a right to speak my piece, Mr. Jobs said. Not here in a schoolroom, not among peaceable people. People around Danny began pushing forward, and he could hear the muttering. Alfred leapt on the bench where he towered over the others like a strong tree in a forest. Everyone outside, right this minute, he demanded in a loud voice. Spelling bee's over. Harvey Greenwood, you're the nearest to the door. Open it wide so everyone can leave the room, please. Mr. Greenwood did, letting in a blast of cold night air. Shivering people began struggling into their coats and snatching up their baskets. Danny was amazed. Alfred had done the same thing that Andrew had done. Both men were given strong orders and people obeyed. Did most people want someone to just tell them what to do? The schoolyard was cleared of buggies and wagons. Olga rested against Alfred on the way home, her head on his shoulder. Oh, Alfred, how will it end? Danny heard her murmur. For the best, I hope, Alfred answered. They rode in silence a few minutes until Alfred spoke in a hearty voice. Danny did his proud tonight. This is a time to celebrate. I didn't win, Danny said. Oh, you came close, Alfred said, which is all the more amazing because you had no formal schooling up till now. He studied very hard, Olga said proudly. Sure he did, Alfred said, but I think the real answer is Danny's own mother and father were good teachers. Yes, sir, they were, Danny said, and his heart so filled with love for Alfred he wished he could leap from the seat of the buggy and throw his arms around him. When Alfred went into town to cast his vote for Abraham Lincoln in the presidential election, he took the rest of the family with him. This is an important moment, Alfred said to Danny, as he guided his buggy through the crowded streets. I want you to remember it always. Danny nodded. Yes, sir, he said, excited about the crowds, the banners hung on poles, the street corner orators, the band in the city square, the festive air to St. Joseph. They left the horses in the buggy in the livery stable and walked toward the courthouse. Danny stopped in front of the wide open door to watch a blacksmith who was heating metal in a forge. The muscles on his bare arms glowed red gold with sweat. He was a wide-shouldered, handsome man with shock black hair. When he looked to see Danny watching him, he smiled. Alfred, who had come back to see Danny, was lagging, waved, and called, "Good to see you, John." Turned to Danny, saying, "Come along, the others are waiting. We'll watch John Murphy work some other time." Olga had packed a generous picnic lunch. Although the air was nippy, the day was bright, and there was room in the park to spread a quilt on the ground for a picnic. Peg was the first to spot the high, brightly painted wagon at the north end of the park. "Is that the medicine man? Do you think he has a monkey?" she asked. Alfred took her hand. "Let's go take a look," he said. "We may as well enjoy a show before we eat." He led the way. Olga and Danny followed. They joined a small crowd gathered at the one end of the wagon on which the bottles of tonic and pills were displayed. A gentleman wearing a black frock of a coat and a tall silk hat raised his hand, and a small bouquet of brightly colored paper flowers suddenly appeared in it. People in the crowd gasped and applauded. Danny gasped too, but for a different reason. "A magic show! A magic show!" Peg shouted as Alfred swung her on his shoulders for a better view. The magician turned and smiled at Peg, and Danny had a good look at him. Heavy dark eyebrows and a beard, a large nose and ruddy cheeks. Danny knew that face. He tugged on Alfred's arm. "I have to talk to you," he whispered. "Can you wait just a minute, Danny?" Alfred asked. "No," Danny said. "It's important." The man now displayed an oversized pack of brightly painted playing cards. Although 2 or 3 of the women in the audience murmured their disapproval at the sight of playing cards, which suggested wicked pastimes, no one left. Others joined them, and the crowd grew larger. Alfred turned Peg over to Olga and walked to one side of the group, bending over to hear what Danny had to say. "I know that man," Danny said. "He calls himself Dr. Claudius Mundy, but he's not a real doctor." "How you know?" Alfred asked. "He used to live in New York City. I saw him. Mike told me." The memory was as vivid in Mike's mind, the two of them craning their necks to find out what the crowd was watching. Mike knew everything and everyone in New York City streets. "See that man?" he said in a low voice. "That's Mundy. He's running a shell game. He'll get all these people's money." Danny had watched, fascinated, as the man deftly scooped up a pile of coins. "He's the worst kind of snake oil merchant, too," Mike went on. "Sells stuff in a bottle that's supposed to cure people, but you can bet it only makes him worse. Some doctor." Now looking into Alfred's concerned face, Danny told him the rest. Later Mike found out, and he told me, that Mundy's medicine really did kill somebody, and that the police were after him, but he disappeared. Dr. Mundy had finished his magic act and begun talking about the wonderful curative powers of the tonic he had for sale. "I learned the secret formula from an Indian medicine man," Mundy was saying. "It's full of rare herbs and will cure neuralgia, the pleurisy, do wonders for rheumatism." A few people edged forward to buy bottles of the tonic. Alfred thought a moment, then said, "Maybe we should find out what's in those bottles." He strode toward the crowd and reached to the side of the wagon, Danny following in his wake. Alfred reached up to the nearest bottle and held it up to the light, peering through the dark green glass. "That tonic costs 50 cents, mister," Dr. Mundy said. "Pay up before you help yourself." He laughed, and a few people standing nearby smiled. "I'm only looking," Alfred said. Dr. Mundy frowned. "Pay up or put it down," he demanded. Danny saw the muscles in Alfred's jaw tighten, and Alfred took a firmer grip on the neck of the bottle. "What's that residue at the bottom?" Alfred asked. "Residue?" For a moment, Dr. Mundy looked flabbergasted, and then he quickly regained his poise. "Why, that's the secret. Indian herbs that will make folks feel healthy and energetic again once they drink it." He turned to the crowd. "A spoonful a day, folks. Best tonic you've ever tried. A real cure-all." "Looks like river sediment to me," Alfred said. "Missouri River sediment." Dr. Mundy growled a curse and tried to snatch the bottle Alfred was holding, but Alfred pulled some coins from the watch pocket of his coat and slapped him down the gate of the wagon. He deliberately unscrewed the bottle and held it under his nose. "Ugh," Alfred said. "This is river water that stood too long. Smells of slime and scum." A few people nearby exchanged murmured comments, and a hand that was holding out some coins quickly pulled back. "You're scum yourself. Get out here," Mundy hissed at Alfred. "You've got no call to interfere with my business." "And you've got no right to try to poison people," Alfred said. One of the men in the crowd elbowed forward and opened the bottle. "This ain't tonic. What are you trying to get away with? Give us our money back," a woman shouted. Dr. Mundy, his face dark red with anger, struggled to stay in control. He raised his voice and said firmly, "No need to shove or shout. If you're not happy, I'll refund your money. Folks know my good reputation wherever I go." "Not in New York," Danny said. "Your tonic killed a man there." "A lie! The boy is lying," Dr. Mundy shouted, glaring at Danny. "I'm not lying," Danny said. You aren't a real doctor either." "The man's a crook," somebody yelled. "A cheat. Give us back our money." The woman screamed as the crowd pushed forward toward the wagon. Dr. Mundy handed back coins fast as he could. tossed bottles of pills and tonic helter-skelter into the wagon and scrambled to lift and lock the wagon's gate. He paused in front of Danny, grabbed the collar of his coat, and poked his face close to Danny's. "I won't forget you, brat," he said. "I'll get you for this." Alfred roughly shoved Dr. Mundy aside. "Get out of town. Don't come back," he warned. "I'm going." Dr. Mundy untied his horse's reins and jumped in the seat of his wagon. "But I'll be back. You can count on it," he snarled. "Don't be afraid of him," Alfred said to Danny as they watched Mundy's wagon rattle down the street. "He's known in St. Joe now. He won't come back." But Danny suspected that for once, Dr. Claudius Mundy was telling the truth.